You wake up, check your phone, and you're immediately greeted with a flood of motivational quotes, success reels, and people yelling at you to grind harder. So, you get to work replying to emails, organizing your to-do list, maybe juggling a few side hustles. It feels like you're doing something. It feels like progress. But by the time the week ends, your bank account looks the same, your stress levels higher, and your goals are still sitting where they were last month, untouched. The brutal truth: you've mistaken activity for progress. This is one of the most dangerous illusions in the modern world. Being busy and thinking it means you're moving forward. But motion isn't momentum. Just because you're doing a lot doesn't mean you're doing what matters. Many people today are working harder than ever, but in circles. You take pride in being overbooked, in having no free time, as if exhaustion is a badge of honor. But being tired doesn't mean you're building anything of substance. It might just mean you're running in place. Let's be clear, being broke isn't always about laziness. More often, it's about misplaced effort. You think that launching 5 things at once will increase your odds of success, but all you're really doing is splitting your focus, diluting your energy, and burning out before anything takes off. It's not ambition, it's anxiety disguised as action. We're living in an era where everyone wants to be seen working. You post screenshots of your calendar, show off your hustle, flex your grind set. But if we stripped all that away and asked what's actually moving the needle, most people would go silent. Because truthfully, we've created a culture that romanticizes the hustle and overlooks the results. And that's why so many people stay broke. They're investing time in being seen working rather than doing the deep, quiet, focused work that actually compounds over time. Think about the hours you spend consuming productivity content, watching videos about building wealth, reading threads about side income. You feel inspired for a moment, but inspiration without execution is just a dopamine hit. You walk away thinking you've accomplished something because your brain got a small reward, but nothing changed. No actions taken, no skill sharpened, no value created. You were busy learning how to get rich instead of actually doing something that builds wealth. This isn't just about your habits, it's about your mindset. You've convinced yourself that because you're constantly doing things, you're making progress. But activity alone doesn't create value. Focus does, strategy does, iteration does, and above all, self-honesty does. You have to ask yourself, is what I'm doing actually moving me forward, or just making me feel like I'm not stuck? If you really want to change your financial life, stop measuring your effort by how exhausted you feel at the end of the day. Start measuring it by how much closer you are to mastery, how much real leverage you built, how much clarity you gained, how much action you took that could actually compound into something bigger, even if nobody sees it on social media. The reason you're still broke in 2025 isn't because you didn't care. It's because you cared in all the wrong directions. You've been seduced by the noise, distracted by low-effort wins, addicted to the sense of doing instead of committing to the discipline of building. People who win, really win, are often invisible at first. You don't see them grinding in public. You don't see them celebrating small wins online. They're too busy getting better. They're locked in, saying no to distractions, pruning their energy, and doubling down on what actually works. That's the part nobody talks about. That's the part that makes the difference between looking busy and becoming wealthy. So if you're wondering why your financial life hasn't changed, despite all your effort, look closer. Maybe it's not about how hard you're working. Maybe it's about whether what you're working on actually matters. You keep choosing comfort, maybe not consciously but consistently, And that's the real reason you're still broke in 2025. You've built your entire life around avoiding discomfort, avoiding the awkward conversation, avoiding the risk, avoiding the grind that doesn't come with instant results. It's not that you don't have potential, it's that you've trained yourself to run from the very experiences that would force you to grow. We live in a world that rewards ease. Everything is designed to make you feel just comfortable enough not to change. Your phone feeds you a stream of validation. Your job, even if it drains you, gives just enough security to make you stay. You've got entertainment on demand, delivery at your doorstep, and a world constantly telling you, you deserve a break. And that's the trap. You're taking breaks from a climb you never even started. Growth demands friction. Progress requires tension. There's no version of success where you get to skip the hard parts. But somehow, you've convinced yourself that if it doesn't feel good, it's not for you. That if it challenges your identity, your ego, or your routine, it must be wrong. That mindset is killing your ambition. It's not the world keeping you broke. It's your avoidance of pain that's doing it. Because wealth, real wealth, lives on the other side of sacrifice. You want freedom, but hate discipline. You want income, but avoid investment of time, of energy, of attention. You want confidence without failure, but that's not how confidence is built. It's forged through struggle, through iteration, through doing things badly until you can do them well. And if you don't learn to embrace that struggle, you'll never escape the paycheck life. You might think you're avoiding risk, but what you're really doing is accepting a lifetime of mediocrity. That job you hate but won't leave. That business you never launched because the timing wasn't right. That skill you never developed because you didn't want to look like a beginner. All of it is costing you more than you think. And the price is your future. We don't talk enough about what comfort really is. It feels good in the short term, but over time it hardens into regret, into bitterness, into a quiet resentment that follows you around, whispering reminders of the dreams you abandoned. Comfort feels like safety, but it's actually slow decay. And when you look up one day and realize that 5 years passed and nothing changed, that's when it hits hardest. The moment you understand that the pain of discipline would have been so much easier than the pain of staying stuck. Most people aren't willing to break their identity to build a better one. They'd rather be broke and familiar than uncomfortable and free. That's what holds them back, not intelligence, not opportunity, but an unwillingness to suffer on purpose. Because that's what growth is. It's choosing your suffering, choosing to be uncomfortable now, so you can be unshakable later. Choosing hard things before they become urgent. It's easy to scroll, it's easy to talk, it's easy to dream. But the work, the late nights, the rejections, the silent months with no applause, that's where the transformation happens. And most of you are skipping that part. You want the after without the during, but success has a cost, and if you're not paying it, someone else is, and they're passing you by. What's worse is how much we defend our comfort zones. You surround yourself with people who validate your fear. You look for content that justifies your inaction. You convince yourself you're being patient, when really you're just scared. But you can't negotiate with reality. You're either stepping into the storm, or you're slowly becoming irrelevant. And life does not wait for you to feel ready. Every time you choose comfort, you delay the life you say you want. And over time, those delays compound into permanence, into missed windows, into a life where you're always watching others from the sidelines, wondering what they did differently. What they did was simple. They stopped running from discomfort. They welcomed it. They trained in it. They learned to see it not as punishment, but as the price of transformation. And until you make that same decision, nothing will change. You'll keep waking up in the same cycle, same bank balance, same stress, same excuses, wondering why things never seem to click for you. But deep down, you already know why. That's the reason you're still broke, and why you might die that way. We live in an age where information is free, abundant, and instantly accessible. You can learn how to budget, how to invest, how to negotiate a salary, or how to build passive income, all from a device you carry in your pocket. And yet, despite all this, most people still don't understand how money works. Not really. That's not a lack of access. That's a lack of decision. You're not broke because you're unlucky. You're broke because you've refused to master money. There was a time when financial literacy was a privilege, something reserved for the elite, for the few. That time is over. Today, ignorance is a choice. If you still don't know the basics of managing your finances, how credit works, how to save intentionally, how to avoid high interest debt, how to build long-term assets, it's not because you couldn't learn, it's because you didn't, and every year you delay, the cost compounds. Money is not just a tool. It's a language, and if you never learn how to speak it fluently, you will always be at the mercy of those who do. You'll keep signing up for financial decisions you don't fully understand. You'll keep living paycheck to paycheck, not because you're not working, but because your money has no structure, no direction, no intelligence behind it. You're leaking wealth every month, and you don't even know where it's going. The truth is, most people don't want to face their finances. They'd rather avoid the numbers, avoid the stress, avoid the confrontation with reality. But avoidance is expensive. Every time you push the issue down the road, you give up more control. And control is everything when it comes to building financial freedom. What's worse is that many people think they're being responsible. You pay your bills, you don't spend extravagantly. You might even save a little, but being cautious with money isn't the same as being intelligent with it. It's not enough to survive. You have to strategize. You have to understand how to make your money work harder than you do. Otherwise, you'll be stuck trading time for money for the rest of your life. And one day, you'll run out of time. You were taught how to earn money. You weren't taught how to keep it, grow it, or use it as leverage. And unless you unlearn that limitation, you'll stay stuck. Because earning more won't solve your problems if you don't change how you manage what you already have. Look around. People making 6 figures are still broke. People with degrees and good jobs are still in debt. That's not an income problem. That's a financial literacy problem. Some of you believe money is complicated. It's not. It's just uncomfortable at first. But discomfort is where the power lies. If you spent half as much time studying how to make your money grow as you do entertaining yourself, you'd already be further ahead. But instead, you default to whatever is easiest in the moment. You scroll, you shop, you say, "I'll figure it out later." And later becomes never. There's a misconception that mastering money means becoming obsessed with it. That's not true. It means becoming responsible for it. It means having clarity. It means knowing where every dollar is going, what it's doing, and why. It means understanding that money doesn't just flow to the hardest worker. It flows to the most intentional one. And most people are not intentional. They're reactive. They spend first, then justify later. They avoid reality until reality breaks them. Think about how much peace you'd gain if you didn't have to worry about the next emergency. Think about how much energy you'd free up if your income wasn't just covering your life, but building your future. That kind of life doesn't come from luck. It comes from discipline, education, and making choices that compound over time. It comes from deciding that you're not going to let another year go by without mastering the thing that governs almost every decision in your life. You already track your screen time. You already obsess over metrics at work. But when it comes to your own net worth, your own habits, your own portfolio, you're passive. You're uninformed, you're indifferent, and you can't build freedom on indifference. You build it on ownership, on clarity, on learning the rules so you can change the game. We're not talking about becoming a financial genius overnight. We're talking about taking the time, finally, to understand the system you're living in. Because if you don't, the system will use you. It already is. And that's the reason you're still broke and why you might die that way. You keep waiting. Waiting for something to click. Waiting for your boss to notice. Waiting for the market to shift. Waiting for the perfect idea or the perfect timing. You think your big break is just around the corner. Like wealth is some random door prize that eventually lands in your lap. That's not how this works. You don't get wealthy by accident. You don't build freedom by hoping. You do it by building leverage, and most people aren't building anything at all. You're still stuck in the old mindset, the one that says hard work alone is the answer. So you grind. You put in the hours, you trade your time day after day, hoping that effort will translate into escape. But in 2025, time is no longer the most valuable currency, leverage is, and the people who win are the ones who figured that out early. Leverage means creating something that works harder than you do. It's writing code that scales, building content that lives beyond you, designing systems that run while you sleep, owning assets that appreciate without your constant input. And it doesn't always look glamorous at the start. It looks like learning uncomfortable skills, like spending nights building when others are relaxing, like staying in motion when no one's watching. But that's the cost of building something that eventually frees you. Too many people today are sitting around waiting to be picked, waiting for someone to give them permission. You're waiting for a raise instead of learning how to earn more outside your job. You're waiting for some new viral trend to lift you up instead of building a brand or a body of work that speaks for itself. You think that one day it's all going to change just because you want it to. But if you're not building leverage, you're not building anything. There's a reason the wealth gap keeps growing, because the rules have changed. The people at the top aren't just working harder. They are multiplying their time, their skills, and their output. They're not stuck in the same daily loop hoping for a miracle. They're stacking advantages. They're automating, investing, delegating, compounding. Meanwhile, you're still showing up with a mindset from 2 decades ago, thinking the next job title or the next certification will finally do it. It won't. The scary part is how good the waiting feels. It feels safe. It feels patient. It feels like strategy. But really, it's just fear. Fear dressed up as preparation. You convince yourself you're not ready, that you need just a little more time, a little more certainty, but deep down you know the truth. You're stalling, and time doesn't care. The world is moving, and if you're not building leverage, you're getting left behind. People say play the long game, and they're right. But you can't play a long game if you're not even on the field. The long game requires movement. It requires intent. It requires you to build systems that create value even when you're not working. Because if your money, your business, or your skill set is still tied to you manually showing up, then you've just built another job. Not freedom, This is why creators, coders, investors, and builders are thriving right now. Not because they're smarter, but because they understood this shift. They're not waiting to be saved, they're building assets, they're growing audiences, they're designing products, automating services, multiplying output. They're playing chess, while most people are still stuck repeating moves in a game they don't even understand. The most dangerous thing you can do in today's economy is rely on effort alone, because effort has a ceiling. Leverage does not. There's only so many hours you can work, so much energy you can give, but a business can grow without you. A brand can scale, a portfolio can compound, and if you're not intentionally building these things, you are choosing the slow path. You are choosing to stay broke. You might say, well, I don't have time, or I don't have resources. But you have the same internet, the same 24 hours, the same tools available to millions of people who figured it out with less. The difference is, they stopped waiting. They started with what they had and built from there. They didn't have guarantees, but they had urgency. They didn't have certainty, but they moved anyway. You have to stop looking for luck. Stop looking for someone to notice. That's not the path anymore. The path is what you create when you finally take ownership of your output and multiply it with intent. That's leverage, and that's the only way you escape the loop, because hoping for wealth doesn't make it happen. Building systems does. Building leverage does. Until then, you'll keep waiting, you'll keep hoping. You'll keep staying in the same place. And that's the reason you're still broke, and why you might die that way.